From the very earliest period of history, the conjoined human and fish form was known to every generation of men. It was presented to their sight in childhood through sculptures and pictures and became a conspicuous object in their religious worship. Over time, its original significance was lost and debased, and from being an emblem and symbol, it came to be accepted as the actual corporeal shape and structure of real sea deities, who might present themselves to mariners in visible and tangible form at any moment. Thus, people were trained and conditioned to believe in mermen and mermaids, to expect to encounter them at sea, and to recognize as one of them any animal whose appearance and movements could possibly conform to their preconceived ideas. It is worthy of note that the fish was also adopted as an emblem by the early Christians. It was frequently sculpted on their tombs as a private symbol or sign of the faith in which the person interred had died. It referred to the letters composing the Greek word iota chi theta upsilon sigma, a fish, forming an acronym: Eta sigma omicron, Jesus, Chi iota sigma tau, Christ, Theta epsilon omicron, of God, upsilon, Son, sigma mega tau, Savior. But it also retained its older meanings of preservation and reproduction, symbolized by the fish, and conveyed a belief in resurrection, just as Noah was preserved to dwell in and repopulate a new world. In Sea Monsters Unmasked, page 55, I provided a figure, copied by permission from the Illustrated London News, of a rough sculpture in the Roman catacombs depicting Jonah being disgorged by a sea monster. Near it, on another Christian tomb, was found a design of the fish. Curiously, the creature shown as expelling Jonah is not a whale but a sea serpent or dragon, and the ichthys in this instance appears not to be a fish, but a seal. The article in question appeared in the Illustrated London News on February 3, 1872, and the woodcut, figure 11, an electrotype of which was kindly presented to me by the proprietors of that paper, was among the sketches that accompanied it. Accordingly, and quite naturally, we find that from north to south this belief has been widespread. Megasthenes, a contemporary of Aristotle, though his junior, wrote that the sea surrounding Taprobana, ancient Ceylon, was inhabited by creatures resembling women. Aliens stated that there were whales or great fishes having the form of satyrs. Early Portuguese settlers in India claimed that true mermen were found in eastern seas. Old Norse legends tell of submarine beings with conjoined human and piscine forms, dwelling in vast territories beneath the fish-filled ocean, above which the sea rolls like the cloudy canopy of our sky. Some of these beings were said to have landed on Scandinavian shores, exchanged their fishy extremities for human limbs, and adopted amphibious habits. Poets have sung of the wondrous and seductive beauty of these aquatic maidens, and many a sailor has returned home swearing he saw a mermaid. To the best of his belief, he told the truth. He saw a living creature that appeared strikingly human, and his imagination, fueled by inherited superstition, filled in the rest. Before attempting to identify the object of his delusion, it may be useful to recount a few instances of supposed mermen and mermaid sightings in various locales. Pliny writes, when Tiberius was emperor, an embassy from Alicipo, Lisbon, informed him that a triton, recognizable by its form, had appeared in a certain cave and produced loud sounds on a conch shell. The Nereid, too, is not imaginary. Its body is rough and covered with scales, but it has a human-like appearance. One was seen on the same coast, and when it was dying, those nearby heard it moaning sadly for a long time. The governor of Gaul wrote to the divine Augustus, reporting that several Nereids had been found dead upon the shore. I have many informants, illustrious persons in high positions, who have assured me that they saw in the Sea of Cadiz a merman, whose entire body resembled that of a man. These mermen were said to mount ships at night, weighing down the side where they settled, and if left undisturbed, they would eventually sink the vessel. Aelian, in one of his short, disjointed chapters, rarely longer than a page, and sometimes only 2 lines, writes, "It is reported that the great sea surrounding Taprobana, Ceylon, contains a vast multitude of fishes and whales. Some have heads of lions, panthers, rams, and other animals. More astonishingly, some cetaceans have the form of satyrs. There are others with the faces of women but prickles instead of hair. Additionally, There are said to be creatures of such strange and monstrous appearance that their form cannot be described without a skilled drawing. These have elongated, coiled tails and claws or fins for feet. In the same sea, it is reported that great amphibious beasts live together in groups. They feed on grain, forage on crops and palm fruit at night, and in the morning, return to the sea and dive beneath the waves. Aelian likely derived this information from Megasthenes, but in another chapter he writes with more confidence about these semi-human whales and even cites divine authority for believing in tritons. Although, he says, we lack rational explanation or conclusive proof of what fishermen claim regarding the form of tritons, we have sworn testimony from many that there are cetaceans resembling humans from the head down to the waist. Demostratus, in his works on fishing, says that an aged triton was seen near Tanagra in Boeotia. It resembled artistic representations of tritons, though its features were obscured by age and it disappeared quickly, making detailed observation difficult. However, some rough, very hard scales were found where it had rested. A senator, chosen by lot to govern Achaia and serve as its annual magistrate, attempted to investigate the creature. He burned a piece of its skin, which emitted a vile odor. Observers could not determine whether it came from a land or sea animal. Unfortunately, the senator soon drowned while crossing a narrow creek, and the people of Tanagra interpreted this as divine punishment for his irreverence. When his body washed ashore, it emitted the same stench as the burned triton skin. The Tanagrians and Demostratus explained where the triton came from and how it was stranded. Aelian continues, I believe tritons exist, and I reverently call as witness the most truthful god, Apollo Didymeus, whose word no sane person would doubt. He sings thus of the triton, whom he calls Neptune's sea sheep. Dum vocal maris monstrum natat aequor triton. Neptuni picus, infunes forte incidit extra. Demissos navem. I translate. A triton, vocal monster of the deep, one of a flock of Neptune's scaly sheep, was caught, while swimming o'er the watery plain, by lines that fishers from their boat had lain. Therefore, Aelian concludes, if he, the all-knowing God, affirms the existence of tritons, we ought not to doubt it. Sir J. Emerson Tennant, in his Natural History of Ceylon, quoting the Histoire de la Compagnie de Jesus, notes that the Jesuit annalist of Indian missions earnestly recorded that in 1560, 7 of these creatures, male and female, were captured at Manar and taken to Goa. There, Dimas Bosquez, physician to the viceroy, dissected them and reported that their internal anatomy was in all respects human. Tennant also cites Valentine, a Dutch colonial chaplain. In his Natural History of Amboina, published in 1727, Valentine devotes an entire section to describing Zeemenschen, Zeewiven, and mermaids, whose existence he insists is beyond doubt. He recounts that in 1663, a Dutch lieutenant and his soldiers saw mermen swimming near the Amboina coast. These beings had long, flowing hair of a hue between gray and green. 6 weeks later, the same creatures were seen again by the same lieutenant and over 50 other witnesses in broad daylight. Valentine asserts, if any narrative in the world deserves belief, it is this. Not only 1, but 2 mermen were seen by so many eyewitnesses. If the stubborn world refuses to accept it, so be it. There are those who would even deny that cities such as Rome exist should the stubborn world, however, hesitate to believe it. It matters nothing, as there are people who would even deny that such cities as Rome is indeed incomplete. It seems to be a partial quote from Valentine, or possibly a paraphrase of his view, and it ends abruptly. The full sentence likely continues with something like, as there are people who would even deny that such cities as Rome exist, despite overwhelming evidence. However, the original source being referred to is Valentine's Oud in New Ostindien, 1727, and without the full original passage, we can't know the exact continuation. If you want, I can try to reconstruct or complete it in the same style and tone, or search for the original full quote if you'd like to ensure historical accuracy.